Aftailava malo saungo, savia tama e Ronnie, kia ora koutou, talofa lava, malo lei, Nissan Bulavinaka. I'm absolutely delighted and extremely excited on behalf of New Zealand Rugby, on behalf of Chair Brent Thimpy, our board, our senior exec and CEO Mark Robinson, and just the whole NZR whānau to officially announce that New Zealand Rugby has awarded the licences, conditional licences, to both the Drua of Fiji and Moana Pasifika. Yes, thank you.
I am absolutely chuffed. I just want to emphasise the fact to all of you that we're true blue Kiwis. We're true blue All Blacks. We're true blue Aucklanders and Blues supporters. But we happen to wear this other hat, which is the blood that courses through our veins. And that's why we want this to happen.
For Moana Pasifika, the decision that's been made by the board is a bold call. It's a bold call. There's, apologies. There's a lot of hard work that needs to be done. A lot of hard work. But the responsibility that we carry is a burden. But, the emotions from the three legends before, it falls on the likes of the steering committee and those of us that are the support partners to bring this thing home. What the board and the exec have done is empowered us to make this a reality. The empowerment model is something that Moana Pasifika and Fiji will embrace. It's in our blood. It's what we do. We have the people, we have the numbers, and more importantly, we've got the diverse skill sets that you need to make this a reality. There is no doubting the talent that exists within Pasifika. You all know that. But we need a way to harness our people, our culture, our stories, and blend it with the commercial business skills that we need to succeed as a professional organisation, but then also attract the right people to coach and manage. I wasn't going to cry.
Could you ever have imagined 20 odd years ago that a Pacific team in Super Rugby would become a reality, if you're honest with yourself?
Well, I certainly could. And as I said, it probably should have happened 25 years ago. But having said that, everyone at the time was because of this challenge from World Rugby Corporation. They needed to look after their own affairs, I guess, and their own aspirations. And as a result, we got left out in the cold. And as I say, it was hugely disappointing at the time, but here we are, and I'm very thankful. I think New Zealand Rugby has taken, as Pelinato said, taken a very bold step. With Super Rugby previously, I was involved coaching the Hurricanes about 20 years ago, and the travel factor in Super Rugby is just debilitating. It really is, and very costly as well. So, a lot of thought has gone into how this competition can be structured to make sure that it's not too costly and including the Pacific Islands. So it's great.
Just following on from that, why now? Why are we seeing this now?
Better now than never. Better now than never.
As it's been mentioned, there's a bit of a history to this, but why now? What's kind of sparked this? What's the catalyst?
Can I help you? Yeah. Well, it's a combination of factors, isn't it? And we've taken some time, certainly in the recent months, and certainly since the the reality of COVID has taken shape and looked at really our place in the world and how rugby might look like in the future. And then was also, alongside that, those macro issues which are significant at an international level also, we've taken some time to make sure that anything we do with our competition comes with an absolute commitment to quality. So the teams coming in have to be sustainable and commercially viable, and they have to play at an extremely high level and be highly competitive. So taking the time to make sure that all of those criteria are in place and being met has taken some time to work through. So I'm not going to go back 25 years, it'd be fair to say, but I certainly can speak to the last 12 to 14 months in terms of some of the considerations we've been having and in constant dialogue with the teams around some of the expectations that we have and also hearing from them some of the realities they are working from. And I think we've come to a stage where we're in a really good middle ground at the moment and looking forward to working forward.
Excellent. And just following on from that, where are things at with the Silver Lake negotiations?
Can we pick up on that later? I'm happy to talk about one of my... Yeah. I mean, there's no change. I might as well answer it, and then everyone can leave me alone later on it. So, it is the same as we last time we spoke publicly in this. We're continuing our consultation with a whole range of different stakeholders. We are working towards a potential decision at the end of this month around the AGM. We're making sure that all relevant stakeholders and partners in this work are having ample opportunity to ask questions and find out all the information they need to make an informed decision. And yeah, that's essentially where we're at. We remain hugely excited about the possibilities that are involved with bringing an investment partner into rugby in New Zealand, and we see that benefiting the entire game, as we've talked about regularly. So with that regard, there's no real change at this stage here.
Thank you.
Well, we're just on the bring back in. You mentioned talks are constructive with Rugby Australia. What more needs to happen in the discussions between NZR and RA to get final, I suppose, approval for these two teams?
Well, we're partners with Rugby Australia in the competition, obviously, along with the teams we're working with that we're talking about today. So there's a whole range of things up at the moment around potential models, governance structure, looking at a potential commission that will have oversight of things like laws, innovations, rules that we're excited about because we're in a more closer proximity to look at some of those things. Finals formats, there's any range of things, a lot of detail to work through there. So in principle, they share our excitement and optimism about this opportunity, but like us also, they want to make sure that we have absolute detail around the financial model that we're looking at and some of the other things we talked to about competitive balance and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
So Michael, how do you think this news is going to be received, particularly by younger members of the Pasifika community?
It's going to be so well received. It will bring a lot of joy, a lot of hope, and I think a lot of a sense of belief that something that has been a long-held dream and aspiration is we're on the crust of that becoming into fruition, and that looking to 2022 and that new professional competition, it's gonna I think there will be some genuine celebration around. I'm just trying to think if the streets of Apia will be as loud as it was when BG did so well in the 91 World Cup. I don't know if it'll be that loud, but absolutely across the Pasifika communities. We Pacific people love rugby. It's in their DNA like Kiwis. It's part of their culture and who they are in the very fabric of society. And so I think they'll see this as potentially a trigger or something that will continue to stimulate the game, but it will continue to raise up generations who will not only potentially pursue their dreams, but engage in something that's really good for them as young men and women, particularly our rangatahi, our tamariki. And, as New Zealand Rugby's vision says, the power to unify and inspire, we can't underestimate how big this will be. So, yeah, there'll be genuine, joy, I believe, and particularly those who have gone before us. And, there's been, I'm talking as Pacific rugby players, there's a whole generation that have gone before us who believed in this and actually, I suppose, you know, blood, sweat and tears were shed to see a day like this arrive. So, you know, we acknowledge those who have gone before, and then there's a whole lot of stakeholders in our game, and we have some of our representatives of our women's game here, not just in New Zealand Rugby and Pacific Rugby, and of course, you know, there's the connection I can't underestimate too, and you know, and the importance of that connection between our Pacific communities here and in the region. So I think that bond and that connection will only grow and be enhanced through this kind of news and this kind of special day that we're witnessing and being part of today.
And you're confident that the teams will be quite competitive, you know, able to go at it with our best?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you think about a journey of any new team, and you know, we've seen some teams where it's taken a bit longer, and we think maybe of what happened with the Sunwolves, you know. But you know, in some senses, they were coming right after 2 or 3 years. But you know, I'm sure New Zealand Rugby and the organisers, and of course Moana Pasifika and the Drill, have a lot of confidence that their journey will be pretty quick. They'll come up to speed. I mean, you're talking about 30 Pacific Island boys in this case, and they're quick learners. And you know, when they marry that natural talent with a real professional structure, and you know, they've got that whole, I suppose, scaffolding around them, which is going to be really outstanding. Well, we've seen some of the work around not just growing their rugby sense, but growing them as young men to be all they can be and fulfil their promise and their potential. So I think that team will come up to speed pretty quickly. I have a lot of confidence in that, actually. But you know, we're not expecting. You know, it could be 2 or 3 seasons. We might see one of those teams in a semi-final against the Blues, or was it the Crusaders? Did you say the Blues? But most certainly, you know, what we are seeing too today is, by announcing this today, and this was really important, is that those franchises can really get moving and get cracking around finalising those team lists. You know, they've got some great potential coaches coming on board, and it's really important that they get on the front foot and sign those players up, get those coaches on board and start doing the mahi, so to speak. And so we've got a lot of confidence in their ability to do that.